Revealed. How a CEO's unexpected kindness changed my life from maid to boss in just 30 days. Cleaning the sleek floors of the glass and steel office building, Sarah felt the weight of her life pressing down on her. At 32, she was just a single mother, a maid rushing between two jobs to keep her two kids' dreams alive. But it was more than barely making ends meet that kept her up at night. It was the fear of being just another shadow in a society defined by labels. Every sweep of her mop came with the heartache of knowing she was more than what others saw. Then came that fateful afternoon, when she unexpectedly crossed paths with Tom. The handsome CEO of a successful tech firm entered the lobby, his presence electrifying. He paused, watching her work, a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. "You've got an impressive work ethic," he said, stepping closer. Sarah's heart raced. Here was a man who seemed worlds apart, yet he noticed her. In that brief moment, she found herself sharing snippets of her life, how her kids' laughter was the only music she needed, how dreams of something greater danced just out of reach. Tom listened, really listened, as if she were more than just a maid. Their conversation flowed, a refreshing tide that washed away the fatigue clinging to her. He saw the spark hiding beneath her burdens, dedicating those relentless hours to give her children a better life. "But what if you could do more?" he proposed, his proposition igniting hope within her. "Join my team for a temporary position. I think you bring a fresh perspective." The words hung in the air, as heavy and exhilarating as a summer storm. She could feel her heart leaping, but her mind wrapped its fingers around her fears. Could she even dance with the thought of changing everything? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Nights turned into desperate hours of tossing and turning, weighing every possibility. Should she leave the safety of her familiar routine, the relentless grind that had become her life? The decision gnawed at her. Finally, driven more by hope than fear, Sarah said yes to Tom. She walked into that office days later, heart racing and spirit igniting. But just as everything seemed to be blooming, miscommunication reared its ugly head. Suddenly, their professional relationship spiraled into chaos during a meeting gone wrong, shattering her fragile confidence as whispers of doubt echoed through her community. Sarah felt exposed and alone, diminished to merely the maid who thought she had a chance. As she stood at the epicenter of embarrassment, surrounded by judgmental glances in the coffee shop where she once shared dreams with her children, Sarah wrestled with her worth. It was in that cavern of despair that she realized she and Tom were on the same journey, each grappling with the weight of their own roles in this twisted society. At this moment, both must confront what truly matters. Will they mold their connection into redemption, or fade into the chaos of misunderstanding? The tension thickened, as Sarah stood at the edge of a decision that would either shatter her or set her free. Hope flickered around her like a candle in the dark, and she wondered if that light could guide them both to something greater, even with everything on the line. The next day came with an unexpected chill. Mist hung in the air, clinging to the ground like the doubts that had nested in Sarah's mind. As she made her way to the office, her heart thumped a chaotic rhythm. She had barely slept, her dreams haunted by the chaos of the meeting and the whispers that followed her like shadows. Tom hadn't called since the meeting gone wrong. Was he regretting his decision to bring her on? Had he recognized that there was no space for someone like her in his polished world? Each step echoed uncertainty, and with each echo her resolve wavered. Once inside the building, she felt the weight of every gaze upon her. Colleagues shuffled papers, phones buzzed, and laughter echoed off the glass walls. But Sarah's spirit was heavy. She made her way to her temporary desk, her heart a battlefield of hope and despair. She remembered the glimmers of possibility during their first conversation, the vibrant energy in Tom's voice. But now those memories dulled like an old film reel. As she began sorting through documents, the hours dragged on, punctuated by the rushed footsteps of others. Then, in a sudden burst of courage, she decided she wouldn't let fear win. She would confront Tom, share her worries, and perhaps find clarity or the push she desperately needed. When she found him in his office, seated behind a sleek desk. She was taken aback by how imposing he seemed. The last time they spoke she felt seen. Now all she felt was small. Still, she knocked softly, pushing the door open just enough to see him looking over spreadsheets. "Tom?" she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Sarah, I was just thinking about you. I need to talk," she blurted out, her heart racing. "Of course, come in." He gestured for her to sit, concern etched on his chiseled features. Sarah took a breath, collecting her scattered thoughts. She spoke of her feelings, how the uncertainty gripped her like a vice. Her defenses crumbled as she laid bare the embarrassment of miscommunication and the weight of judgment she felt from the outside world. "I wanted this opportunity so badly, but I'm worried I've just made a fool of myself," she admitted. Tom leaned forward, his expression shifting to one of understanding. "You're not a fool, Sarah. We all stumble. It's part of the journey. The real question is how we rise up from it." His words ignited something within her, a flicker of the hope she thought may have gone out. They talked, delving deeper into their fears and aspirations, each sharing their vulnerabilities. Seeing her strength reflected in Tom illuminated shadows in her life that she had long overlooked. She realized they both had battles to fight. His world didn't come with easy wins either. "It's not about where we start or even where we fall. It's about what we choose to do next," Tom said, and for the first time, it felt like they were on equal ground. Just as the conversation embarked on a new direction, a loud knock interrupted them. The door swung open, revealing a colleague with urgent news about a project. "Tom, we need your input right away," he said, urgency clouding the air. With that interruption, Sarah felt the moment slip away. The connection between them fraying like a thread pulled too tight. She didn't want to let it go. As Tom stood to address his colleague, Sarah's heart raced. What if this was another chance lost? She needed to make a bold move. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, her voice steady. "Tom, can we continue this conversation later? I believe I have some ideas, some contributions to make." His gaze turned back to her, curiosity and something warmer flickering in his eyes. "Absolutely. Let's meet later today. I want to hear what you have to say." That single affirmation stirred something deep within Sarah, a smile breaking across her face. She had taken a step, and though the future was still blurred, it felt less threatening. As she left his office, hope swelled in her chest, but doubt still lingered like a distant thundercloud. Would she truly be able to bridge the gap? Or would the misunderstandings once more loom large? As the day rolled on, an unexpected visitor awaited her outside the office, his anxious eyes filled with a familiar fear. It was her son, face pale, and something in his grip suggested trouble. "Mom, we need to talk. It's about school." "And what they're saying," he stammered, pulling her from the warmth of her moment with Tom. Her heart dropped. "What do you mean?" In that stark moment, the complexities of her world collided. Would this new challenge test the very resolve she had just begun to embrace? As she stood on the precipice of uncertainty once again, a question surged within her. Could she juggle the demands of her personal life with this emerging career? Or would everything she had fought for slip through her fingers? Sarah's heart raced as she looked at her son, the weight of his words crashing down on her. "What exactly are they saying?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but she felt the tremor of worry creeping in. He shifted on his feet. "They've been saying things about me, about us. I don't want to go to school anymore. Mom, no one will talk to me. They think?" "Think what?" she pressed, kneeling to meet his eyes. She needed him to feel her support, her unwavering presence. "They think you're just a maid. That I'm embarrassed to be your son. I hate it," he whispered, his voice cracking. A part of her snapped at the thought of anyone demeaning him for her choices, for the life she was trying to build. "Oh, sweetheart," she soothed, pulling him into an embrace, feeling his small body tremble against her. "You know that's not true. I'm so proud of you, and I wouldn't trade being your mom for anything." He pulled away, the hurt still etched in his gaze. "But kids don't understand. They think you're just cleaning houses. They don't see how hard you work and how smart you are." Her own heart ached as she felt the sting of his words. It was one thing to feel judged herself, but to have her child face that ridicule felt unbearable. The heavy fog of uncertainty deepened. "Listen," she began, her voice laced with determination. What matters most is how we see ourselves, not how others see us. You and I, we are not defined by what others say. Why does it have to be like this? He asked, tears brimming in his eyes. Life isn't always fair, but we choose how to rise above it. Remember that talk we had about heroes? About how they keep fighting no matter what? He nodded, his brows furrowing as he chewed on her words. We can be heroes in our own story. We'll show them how strong we are. With that, a spark of defiance flared between them. Tomorrow let us walk into that school together. I'll show my face and you can show them yours. Let us not hide from this. A flicker of hope crossed his face, the hint of a smile breaking through. You'd really do that? Absolutely, she replied. But I need you to promise me something too. Stand tall and don't let them get to you. You are so much more than their words. As they stood hand in hand, the world outside faded for just a moment. It was just the two of them against the storm. But Sarah felt a stirring deep within her. A realization that she had to fight not only for her son but for herself as well. Later, as she watched him walk away, her heart sank again at the thought of his vulnerability. It reminded her of her own struggles, the meeting with Tom hanging like a half-finished puzzle she needed to solve. She had thrown herself into this job, hoping it would be a fresh start, but now she struggled to balance it all and keep her son's spirit alight. Back at her desk, she opened her notebook and scribbled down thoughts that flooded her mind, the ideas she wanted to share with Tom. How she could contribute, how she could be an asset. A sense of purpose began to replace the earlier uncertainty. If she was going to be the mother and the professional she aspired to be, she had to embrace both roles fully. Just then a message pinged on her phone. A reminder from Tom about their meeting later that evening. She felt the familiar flutter in her stomach but shook it off. As she prepared for the discussion, a single thought rang crystal clear. This was her moment. Not just for career advancement but for her son too. As the clock ticked down to the meeting, she couldn't ignore the tightness in her chest. She was teetering on the edge of two worlds, one filled with dreams and professional aspirations, and the other, a mother's fierce love grappling with the harsh words of a child's peers. Would the strength she felt for her son carry her through her meeting with Tom? Or would she falter again? With that looming question, she gathered her papers and steeled herself. There was still time to find out. Sarah sat in the conference room, her hands resting on the polished table, feeling its cool surface beneath her palms. She took a deep breath, attempting to steady her nerves. The flickering fluorescent lights above hummed softly, and she could hear the distant sounds of the office outside, voices, laughter, the clattering of keyboards. All of it felt surreal. As Tom entered, she straightened in her seat, forcing a smile onto her face. He was tall and confident, with an easy smile that made everyone around him feel at ease. Sarah had always admired that about him, but today, her heart raced with uncertainty. The memories of her son's pain lingered in her mind like shadows that wouldn't dissipate. "Sarah, great to see you," Tom said, his voice warm and inviting. He settled across from her, his blue eyes scanning her face as if gauging her thoughts. "Hi, Tom," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Thanks for meeting with me. Of course. I'm eager to hear your ideas. I know you've been putting in a lot of work." He leaned back, hands clasped together, encouraging her to share. She hesitated, her thoughts colliding like runaway trains, her commitment to her job, her responsibilities as a mother, and the need to rise up in a world that often tried to hold her down. Taking another deep breath, she opened her notebook, pages filled with handwritten notes and sketches of her aspirations. "Okay," she started, her voice stronger now. "I believe that we can improve our community outreach programs. Not just for the company's image, but to genuinely help families like mine. People often feel isolated due to their circumstances. I want to create a program that brings us closer." Tom leaned forward, interest piqued. "I love the direction you're heading," he said encouragingly. "Keep going." Words began to flow, punctuated by her passion. She spoke about the importance of representation, of giving a voice to those often ignored. As she shared her vision, bright spots of excitement burst within her, igniting her spirit. If she could make a difference for others, maybe she could find her own way to flourish too. Just then, Tom's expression shifted from interest to intrigue. "This is powerful, Sarah. It's personal. I can see how important this is to you. What if we also included mentorship for the children? Show them what is possible." Help them dream bigger? Children like yours. Sarah's heart skipped. You mean involve kids directly? Absolutely, he affirmed, his eyes sparkling with possibilities. We could host workshops and connect them with role models. I know some people who'd be interested. The rush of adrenaline fueled her thoughts. This could really be bigger than she'd imagined. It wasn't just a project. It was a chance to rewrite the narrative for her son, for herself, and for all the families facing similar challenges. But somewhere in the excitement, a nagging doubt settled in her mind. Would her ideas matter? Would they take her seriously? She pushed the fear aside, focusing instead on Tom's encouraging demeanor as their conversation continued. Ideas cascaded from her in waves. Partnerships with local businesses, volunteering days, fundraising events. With each suggestion, the brightness of her vision became clearer. She could see it taking shape, tangible and full of hope. When the meeting wrapped up, Tom leaned back in his chair, a smile spreading across his face. Sarah, I'm impressed. Let us set a timeline, plan this out, and I can support you in making it happen. Really? She breathed, a rush of gratitude swelling within her. The words felt like a lifeline, pulling her higher when she feared she might fall. Absolutely. You're a key part of this team, he said, rising to shake her hand. In that moment, she felt the world of possibilities opening up in front of her, pulling her son's dreams alongside her own. She stepped out of the conference room, not just as a maid, but as a champion for change. But as she walked towards her desk, a nagging thought resurfaced. What would happen when her son learned about their plans? Would he believe in the world she was trying to create for him? With that question echoing in her mind, Sarah knew this journey was far from over. As Sarah made her way back to her desk, the pulse of energy from the meeting still coursed through her veins. She glanced at her colleagues, many of whom were deep in their tasks, blissfully unaware of the storm of inspiration brewing within her. For the first time in a long while, hope felt like a tangible thing. But the giddiness was quickly overshadowed by the heaviness in her heart. The thought of sharing this new chapter with her son, a bright boy who had endured more than his fair share of struggles, made her chest tighten. What would he think? Would he see the vision just as she did? The weight of uncertainty gnawed at her as she settled back into her seat. Her computer screen flickered to life, but her thoughts were elsewhere. It was crucial that Jake felt a part of this. He was her world, and they had already faced so much together. She could picture his small face, filled with fierce determination whenever he set his mind to something. But how could she transform this dream into a reality for them both? Just then her phone vibrated, breaking her reverie. It was a text from her older sister, Lily. How did it go? Call me. That tiny rush of excitement brought a smile to her face. After typing a quick response, she rose from her chair and made her way to the break room. The familiar smell of brewing coffee filled the air, and it was comforting. She poured herself a cup and took a sip, letting the warmth seep into her soul. She needed this moment of solitude amidst the chaos. As the steam curled up into the air, her mind drifted back to her meeting with Tom. His encouragement ignited something deep within her. What if she could rely on that inspiration to reach out to other parents in the community? What if every single family could rally around this mission? Suddenly, a spark of daring determination flared in her heart. She would organize an event, a community day, not just for outreach, but for celebrating the strength of families like hers. There could be fun activities for kids, an information booth on resources, and a space for families to share their stories. This wasn't just about her, it would be a movement. That enthusiasm bubbled to the surface as she made her way back to her desk, and as she sat down, the familiar clatter of keyboards and soft chatter fueled her resolve. She opened her notebook again, flipping to a fresh page, ready to draft her plan. But as she began writing, the nagging question returned. Could she really pull this off? Would the community believe in a vision stitched together by dreams? What if she failed? She gripped her pencil tightly, heart racing. No. She refused to let fear dictate her actions. If she could share her vision with Tom and come away with support, why couldn't she invite her community in the same way? Resolute, Sarah turned her attention back to her notes. Ideas for community partnerships flowed freely. She envisioned local businesses sponsoring booths, schools providing volunteers, and families linking arms in shared purpose. Just when she felt the momentum building, her phone buzzed again. It was Lily calling. Sarah took a quick breath, anticipation tingling along her spine. It was time to share her heart, to let someone into her whirlwind of thoughts. Maybe her sister could help her see things in a clearer light. "Hey Sarah." Lily's voice danced through the line. "What's going on?" "I had a meeting with Tom." Sarah paused, heart pounding. "And I think we can actually do something big for the community." "What do you mean?" "I want to organize a community day, to connect families like ours." The excited squeal on the other end made Sarah laugh. "Let us talk more, give me all the details," Lily urged, and as she listened, a flicker of excitement ignited within Sarah. Maybe they could turn this into something even bigger together. But deeper echoes of doubt still loomed. What if not everyone wanted to join in? What if the very family she was trying to inspire felt they did not belong? They hung up after bouncing ideas back and forth, and Sarah sighed. The choices she made now would shape not just their lives, but the lives of countless others. And she thought again of her son, the light in his smile, the way he looked at her like she was a superhero. It was time for her to step into that role for him. For all of them, a sense of urgency gripped her as she typed, determination transforming the room's energy around her. How could she lift everyone up at once? But as she pondered the next steps, she suddenly froze in place. What about the potential opposition? Would people like Tom actually support her vision? Or were they simply indulging her hopes? With that heavy question hanging in the air, Sarah knew the battle had just begun. Sarah's fingers hovered above the keys, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and fear. The phone call with Lily had ignited the embers of her ambition, but doubts were still swirling, heavy like storm clouds above her head. Would the community rally behind a single mother's dream? Or would they see her as an outsider, just another voice lost in the crowd? Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to focus on the plan. She started to jot down ideas for the event. A family picnic, a talent show for kids, and perhaps even a workshop on resilience. Something every parent could benefit from. The more she wrote, the more the vision materialized. Suddenly, her phone chimed again, breaking her concentration. It was a message from Tom. "Excited about your ideas for the community day. Let us catch up tomorrow and brainstorm some more." The flutter in her chest felt like hope unwinding slowly. If Tom was in, maybe others would be, too. Encouraged, she took a sip of her now cold coffee and returned to her notes, jotting down potential speakers and showcasing success stories from families like hers. Just as the ideas flowed, an unsettling thought crashed through her mind. What if she was seen as naive? What if they rejected her before she even got the chance to share her vision? She closed her eyes, imagining Jake's bright smile. He believed in her. He thought she was the best mom in the world, a title she never took for granted. If she could do it for him, why not for others? Determined, Sarah opened a new document on her computer. Title it Community Day. A New Beginning. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, conjuring up a vision that was becoming clearer with every word. A knock on her office door jolted her back to reality. It was her supervisor, Brian, a stern man with perpetual responsibilities etched on his face. "Sarah, do you have a minute?" "Sure," she replied, trying to mask her racing heart. As he stepped in, he glanced at her notebook sprawled across the desk. "What's all this?" Her pulse quickened. "Just a little project I've been considering for the community." He looked curious but guarded. "How about you fill me in over coffee sometime? I'd love to hear it." Of course. Relief washed over her. Maybe if she involved Brian, he could help provide credibility that she felt she lacked. After their quick chat, Sarah sat back down, the clock ticking softly in the background. She felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. Could they pull this off? Could she overcome her doubts and bring everyone together? But with each passing moment, the gravity of what she was attempting dawned on her. Organizing a community day would require more than just good intentions. It would need strength, courage, and most importantly, a network of advocates ready to support her cause. She glanced at the clock, realizing it was nearly time to head home to Jake. As she gathered her things, a spark of resolve ignited within her. Maybe she would take him to the park tomorrow, introduce the idea of the community day in a way that made him feel involved. She could already picture the joy in his eyes as they brainstormed together, mother and son as partners, fighting for their dream. Stepping out of the office, she took a deep breath, the air feeling different somehow. It was charged with possibility, A whisper of everything that lay ahead. But what if she reached out to others and they didn't respond positively? What if she discovered that some people didn't want change, that the very community she hoped to uplift pushed her aside? As she made her way to her car, the fear crept in again. This was just the beginning, but it felt monumental, more than she had bargained for. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, sliding into the driver's seat. But as she drove home, the uncertainty lingered like a shadow, looming and waiting. Would her vision be embraced? And as she pulled into the driveway, there was one burning question that echoed louder than any other. What would happen if she stepped out of her comfort zone and truly invited others to join her? Fight? That question loomed, a challenge yet to be answered. Time would tell if she found the courage to allow others in, or if it would be another battle fought alone. The next morning felt alive with possibilities. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting Jake's room in a warm golden hue. Sarah tiptoed past his sleeping form, heart swelling with excitement. Today was crucial. She picked up the planning document she'd created and leaned against the kitchen counter, noting the colorful ink of her dreams. This community day could be the spark they all needed, a chance to build connections that could last a lifetime. After Jake woke up, breakfast was a laughter-filled adventure. He insisted on making pancakes, adorning them with chocolate chips and fruit. Watching him proudly flip the pancake, she felt a renewed energy. "What do you think about a community day, buddy?" she asked, tapping into his enthusiasm. His eyes sparkled. "Is it like a party? With games and fun?" "Exactly," Sarah encouraged, nodding. "And everyone in our neighborhood can come and join in. I want us to plan it together. Let us make something special." "I can make balloon animals," Jake exclaimed, bouncing in his chair. Sarah laughed. "That's a great idea. You'll be the entertainment then. We'll need a lot more people to help out, though." A moment of doubt flickered in her mind before she pushed it away. "Let us finish breakfast first." As the day unfolded, the park came alive with laughter and chatter. After dropping Jake off with Mrs. Lopez, she headed straight to the community center, her heart in her throat. She had set up a meeting with Tom, Brian, and a few other parents she hoped would become allies. They had all agreed to meet to discuss ideas, but now that she was here, doubts trickled back in. What if they shot down her ideas? What if they laughed? She could almost hear the whispers. Just another single mom with a dream. But as Sarah entered the room, she was met with warm smiles, and that lifted her spirits. Tom looked genuinely enthusiastic, eyes sparkling with possibility. Brian nodded in approval of her notepad filled with ideas. "I'm ready to hear what you have, Sarah," he said, leaning forward. She smiled, the fear beginning to melt away. "I think we need something that not only engages families but also strengthens our community ties. Activities like a talent show, workshops, maybe local vendors." Her voice gained momentum. This day could be about sharing stories, supporting one another, and building something great together. As she spoke, she saw heads nodding in agreement. It was as if each word she uttered was weaving a tapestry of hope around the room. Tom jumped in with ideas for games, while Brian offered connections to local businesses that could be sponsors. Just as Sarah began to feel the tide turning in her favor, a voice at the back of the room interrupted, cutting through her momentum. "Is this really necessary?" It was Jenna, a well-known figure in the neighborhood. She folded her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "I don't see how a day of activities will change anything." The air thickened with tension. Time slowed as Sarah felt the weight of all her fears crashing down. Was the vision already threatened? The excitement she'd felt moments ago dwindled into doubt again. But as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, her heart thundered in her chest. This was a pivotal moment. "It's necessary because we need each other," she replied, her voice steady. "We all have stories, struggles, and victories. Community Day isn't just a fun event. It's a chance to come together, to share our experiences, and to connect. We can be stronger together." Her words hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation all at once. Silence swirled around them, heavy with anticipation. Would Jenna be a roadblock or an unexpected ally? Would the collective energy of the room push them toward unity, or would fear pull them apart? Sarah could feel the potential splitting at the seams. The full power of her vision hung in the balance. And somewhere deep inside she wondered, could this be the moment that defined not just a community day, but the defining moment of her life? As she awaited the response, her heart raced with newfound hope. The silence stretched thick and electric, as all eyes turned to Jenna. Sarah could feel the weight of expectation like a heavy coat around her shoulders. Would Jenna lash out again? But Jenna's brow furrowed, and for a moment, Sarah thought she might actually start to reconsider. I suppose, Jenna began, her voice wavering slightly. Community is important. But putting all this together? Sounds like a lot of work. Of course it'll take work, Sarah replied quickly, drawing on a well of confidence she didn't know she possessed. But think about the kids. Think about how much joy and connection they can have in a space where they feel safe and celebrated. Others in the room nodded, a ripple of agreement traveling through the crowd. Tom leaned forward. I agree with Sarah. We've all been cooped up for too long. A day where we can laugh, share, and let our kids play freely? That's worth fighting for. Jenna remained quiet, her expression still dubious, but the atmosphere had shifted. The tightness in Sarah's chest began to ease. She was not alone. As the discussions flowed, ideas bloomed. Brian announced he could help provide sound equipment for the talent show. Another mother volunteered to set up a bake sale. Before long, they were brainstorming food truck options, activity stations, and ways to promote the event online. Let us create a shared social media page to spread the word, Sarah suggested, her energy returning. Jake's excitement bubbled in her mind, inspiring her with each new contribution from fellow parents. She envisioned him running around with his balloon animals, laughter echoing through the park. Jenna finally broke her silence as she glanced around, her voice quieter now. Maybe I shouldn't have assumed it wouldn't matter. Could really bring people together. A hint of vulnerability colored her words, and it felt like the start of a bridge being built. Exactly, Sarah exclaimed, feeling her heart lift. This is about getting to know each other. If we truly connect, we'll all benefit. With a tentative smile, Jenna nodded. Count me in then. I can help coordinate the vendors. Cheers arose from the table, a surge of excitement reverberating through the air. Sarah couldn't help but grin as the once hostile tension transformed into collaborative spirit. They talked until the afternoon light began to wane, details falling into place like puzzle pieces. But later, as Sarah returned home, holding Jake's hand and recalling the lively discussions, doubt crept in again. What if things spiraled out of control? What if nobody showed up? An afterthought gnawed at her. What if this all ended in disappointment? Could she hold this fragile spark of hope alive in the heart of her community? Mom, are we really going to do it? Jake's innocent question jerked her from her thoughts. His eyes were wide with enthusiasm, a mirror of her earlier excitement. Yes, we are, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. We're going to show everyone what we can do together. But as night enveloped their neighborhood, Sarah lay awake in bed, anxiety tangled with her hopes. Tomorrow would bring more planning and more decisions, and she worried about facing the naysayers again. What if one conversation turned everything around? Uncertainty hummed in her ears. She could almost envision the fights for the details, the differences that might divide them. And yet, as she looked at Jake sleeping peacefully, she knew she needed to forge ahead. But what if there were even darker hurdles ahead? What would happen when some neighbors opposed the idea instead of rallying around it? Would she still have the strength to push through when hard conversations began? She sighed, pulling the comforter tightly. Only one thing was certain. Everything hung in the balance. And only time would reveal whether this dream was worth holding on to or if it would all come crashing down around her. The morning sun spilled golden light into Sarah's kitchen as she brewed the coffee. The aroma filled the air and clung to her like the hope still sparkling in her chest. She glanced over at Jake, who was sitting at the table, fidgeting with a spoon, the cartoon character's smile still bright on his face. Are you ready for today? She asked, trying to match his enthusiasm, despite the uncertainty fluttering in her stomach. Ready as I'll ever be, Jake replied, bouncing in his chair. His excitement mixed with her anxiety created a tension that was hard to ignore. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that every community event had its challenges. At the counter, Sarah made a mental list of everything they needed to accomplish. More flyers to distribute, social media posts to draft. She decided to visit Mr. Thompson at the hardware store. He was well liked in the community and often the voice of reason, but as she stepped outside, the first flicker of doubt struck her again. What if Mr. Thompson was too busy? What if he didn't share her vision? Walking briskly to the store, she rehearsed her pitch in her head like a calming mantra. The bell above the door jingled as she entered. Mr. Thompson stood behind the counter, his salt and pepper hair gently tousled, his face breaking into a warm smile when he saw her. "Sarah, good to see you. What brings you in?" His genuine tone helped ease her nerves. "I wanted to talk about the community event we're planning at the park." "And how can I help?" he asked, leaning forward. Before she knew it, she was elaborating on their plans, the excitement spilling out of her like a waterfall. Mr. Thompson listened intently, occasionally nodding, and the way his eyes lit up at the idea made her pulse quicken with hope. "That sounds wonderful," he said. "I'd love to support it. Count me in for supplies and whatever else you need." She felt a wave of relief wash over her. If Mr. Thompson believed in this, then maybe others would too. With newfound energy, she dashed out of the store, clutching the promise of support close to her heart. The rest of the day was a whirlwind. As she flitted from one conversation to another with fellow parents, she collected commitments and pledges of help. One neighbor offered to lend her a tent, another volunteered to run the games. Even Jenna was quick to share ideas, her initial reluctance fading with each supportive word. Nevertheless, doubt crept back in as the evening approached. Fears of conflict loomed like storm clouds. They were a community, but they were not without divisions. That night, Sarah lay awake again, the question gnawing at her, biting harder than before. What if someone decided to speak against the event? What if they criticized her efforts? Jake had fallen asleep beside her, a peaceful smile on his face, untouched by the worries that weighed heavily on hers. Then her phone buzzed, cutting through the silence. It was a message from Tom. "Excited for tomorrow. Let us meet an hour early to finalize things." It felt like a vote of confidence, a thread pulling her back into the light. "Okay," she whispered to herself, reminding herself of the momentum they had built. "We can do this. I can do this." As dawn broke, she made her way to the park, heart racing, fear mixed with anticipation swirling like the autumn leaves catching the wind. What if this was the turning point she was hoping for? But as she approached, a knot formed in her gut. There, gathered at the edge of the park, stood a small group of neighbors. Their faces were stern, their bodies tense. And though she couldn't read their intentions, she felt the weight of what was brewing in the air. "Sarah," one of them called out, stepping forward with a determined glare. "We need to talk." Her breath hitched in her throat. Did they oppose her vision? Was everything she worked for hanging by a thread? The tension in the air was palpable, and Sarah's heart raced as she faced the group. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to sound steady. One of the neighbors, Greg, stepped forward, arms crossed. "We heard about your plans for the community day. Some folks are saying we don't need more activities. We're already spread thin with our own problems," he said, voice firm. Her stomach twisted as she absorbed his words. She felt a rush of fear, a wave of doubt crashing over her. What if they weren't going to support her? Just when she was on the brink of achieving something for her son and the community, the shadows of negativity threatened to undo it all. Yet, deep down, she felt a flicker of her earlier determination pushing forth. "Look," she began slowly, finding her voice amid the worries echoing in her mind. "I get it. We all have our struggles. But that's why we need this. It's not about distractions. It's about connection. It's about us coming together to lift each other up." The group exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Sarah took a deep breath, her words coming faster now. "This isn't just a party. It's a way for us to share our stories, to realize we're not alone in this. Our kids deserve a day where they can see strong families, empowered voices, and laughter." Another woman, Lisa, chimed in hesitantly. "But will anyone even show up? What if it feels forced?" Sarah took a step closer, her heart pounding but her resolve clear. "What if we make it personal? What if we all shared our stories at the event? What if we made connections that might help us all find solutions together?" And just like that, a flicker of hope ignited in the crowd, the atmosphere shifting from resistance to reflection. Community Day could be different, an actual gathering of support and camaraderie. Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. "We can unite for an afternoon, build some trust, and create a foundation for future collaborations." Greg looked at her, skepticism still in his eyes yet softened. You really believe we can make a difference? With gratitude swelling in her chest, she met their gazes, every ounce of vulnerability on display. I do. It starts with us deciding we want to be heard. This could be the first step in changing how we view each other, how we support one another. A chance to redefine our community narrative. Silence enveloped them. Then slowly, a few nods began to appear. I guess it could be interesting to see how we all come together, Lisa mused, her expression thoughtful. And it could inspire our kids to engage with one another positively, Greg added, his arms beginning to unfold. Encouraged, Sarah seized the moment. Why don't we gather some ideas? Collaborate on how to make this work for everyone, ensuring that it's inclusive and truly representative of our community? With whispers of agreement now weaving through the group, Sarah felt her heart swell. They were no longer just opponents. They were potential allies in the budding vision she had fought for. As they parted, Greg hesitated, glancing back at her. Fine, let us see how we can make this work. We're willing to help, but only if we really commit to pulling together. Deal, Sarah said, her heart racing with renewed energy and a smile that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Back at the park later, as families began to arrive, Sarah stood at the entrance, anxiety mingling with excitement. She could hear laughter threading through the air, sunshine bathing everything in warmth. Each moment was a heartbeat, pulling her closer to the realization of her dream. Jake bounded up to her, balloon animals clutched in his small hands and a grin plastered on his face. Mom! It's amazing! Look at all the kids! With Jake's infectious joy lighting the way, Sarah felt a rush of gratitude. This day wasn't just a community event, it was a celebration of resilience. A testament to not succumbing to fear, but rising together. As laughter echoed, kids ran freely and families began to share their stories. Sarah spotted Tom approaching from the crowd, a proud smile stretching across his face. Sarah, you did it! He exclaimed, pride sparkling in his eyes as he took in the scene. This is incredible. I can't believe you got everyone to come together. Your vision became a reality. I couldn't have done this without your support, she replied, feeling like she was standing on the cusp of something monumental. No, this was all you. You reignited the community spirit, he smiled, inspiration evident in his gaze. And I see your ideas taking root already. Overwhelmed with emotion, Sarah took a moment to reflect. She stood taller, shedding the shadows of her past. She remembered sleepless nights battling self-doubt. Now standing alongside her son, surrounded by renewed connections, pride welled up in her heart as twilight settled. Sarah saw neighbors' laughter mix with hope, every child running freely, echoing the spirit she had longed for. And in that moment, amidst the joy and unity, she felt a profound realization. She wasn't simply a maid. She was a beacon of change. With renewed purpose, Sarah looked around at the smiling faces, radiant with hope. She was more than a story of struggle. She was part of a collective narrative that was unfolding right in front of her. Every challenge she'd faced had led her to this very moment, a thriving community ready to pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the warmth of their new beginnings radiated through her. Sarah knew this wasn't the end, but just the beginning of a journey with endless possibilities. And with that, she smiled, ready to embrace whatever came next. She'd fight for herself, for her son, and for every family that deserved to be seen. Now, are you ready to take the leap? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us hear your voices. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. The power of change is in your hands.